It's not often that she is available for a long conversation, and this is a real surprise, a pleasant one, because I stopped in for a cup of tea and she's agreed to have a chat with us on camera. Union Minister Smriti Irani with us. Namaste. Thank you very, very much.
It's not often I get berated on national TV, but I'm grateful for it.
No. But let me ask you, you've also been up and about. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is taking India's cause to the world, and you have been looking at and traveling into Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh and all these regions, trying to see if work is actually happening on ground, especially women and child development. That's up your domain. So how's your trip? Let's start from there.
I had a very, very delightful experience in Budgam, Jammu Kashmir and Magam. For me, the plethora of issues that I could address or review, or for that matter converse on with citizens, brings me a lot of solace. Because everywhere I went, there were two standards that were maintained in terms of conversations by citizens. One was their desire to communicate to the Prime Minister that they appreciable, that now they see the government at their doorstep. And two, that they recognize that the challenges are aplenty. In many instances, the challenges are historical in nature. However, they are cognizant of the fact that the Prime Minister is particularly dedicated to finding solutions. I think as a political worker, let alone an administrator, that brings you a lot of peace, because given the fact that citizens have faced areas in our history or chapters in our history where they were totally disconnected from administration, today for them to recognize and converse on these methodologies brings me a lot of hope. Hope especially because the Prime Minister speaks about cooperative federalism, but I also saw a glimpse of cooperative administration, where the people today want to work together with the Prime Minister to bring change.
So is there also, would you say, especially interaction with women, children, there is a rejection of terrorism, there is a rejection of
I think there is an acceptance of not only peace, there is an acceptance not only of the agenda of development, there is also an acceptance that yes, we can build a better India.
True, and the story of Better India is something that Prime Minister is taking to the US. There is a lot that's happening, especially with trade push. And I'll focus on the business and the economic aspect of it, because as textiles minister, you were pushing for a lot in technical textiles, and we saw the the production linked incentive scheme being announced with Piyush Goyal ji in charge, but it all started under you. So do you think we now have a much more stronger story to take to the world to try and come and invest in
I think the world was desirous of an ecosystem where ease of doing business and ease of living get equal priority. This is what the Prime Minister has done. Many economies have been in the race to improve their rankings in the ease of doing business. The Prime Minister brings that amount of balance in the discourse by saying that are we looking at structurally an administration that only looks at building infrastructure, or we are dedicating ourselves to building better living opportunities for our systems and for our citizens. So I think that when you go overseas, and in my conversations with my counterpart in the Ministry of External Affairs, I was delighted when I shared the achievements of women related subjects on international forums. We received amazing responses from our colleagues internationally. The fact that we've had 440 million unbanked citizens now party to financial services through Jan Dhan Yojana is a mammoth task, not achieved in 70 years, but managed in the past 5 years, because there's been a dedicated effort to ensure that people are financially now engaged with the Indian Treasury. Similarly, the transference of 30,000 crores to 22 crore female bank accounts again is something that is spoken of with much regard internationally. It is unheard of that 800 million people will receive free ration for 14 months. No other economy in the world has done that. No other economy in the world has witnessed the vaccine turnaround that India has. No other economy in the world has developed a whole PPE market in lockdown in just 60 days. So India has achieved the impossible. India is so busy achieving it that many don't talk about it. Some try to debate it. some tried to deliberate as to how to do better about it, but we are glad at least that now the dedicated focus in terms of conversations have been these issues of development.
But somewhere, don't you also get the sense that there are portions or governments in the world or entities which don't believe? We can't believe that you can do it. Now look at what we've done with vaccination.
When the pandemic hit the Indian shores, one of the conversations across the world was, given the mammoth population that we have, how will we ensure food security? How will we ensure vaccine security? How will we ensure that our medical systems can bear the brunt of it? It is to complement not only the leadership of the Prime Minister, but also I think the dedication with which citizens of our country engaged with governments across the nation, be it administrations at the district, be it state governments. The Prime Minister said that this is a pandemic that we all need to work together to confront. We cannot afford petty politics at such time. And I'm grateful to citizens who rose to that occasion, who recognize that yes, this is a once in a lifetime challenge, but thank God that we were led by the Pradhan Sevak during these challenging times.
True, but there's also work that's been done by the ASHA workers, and a lot that comes under your domain. Even Swachh has now come under your domain.
I think that one of the brilliance of the Prime Minister's leadership is that he believes in Samanvay. ASHA works under the vertical of the Health Ministry, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan works under the vertical of the Jal Shakti Mantralaya, Anganwadi Systems and Poshan works under the Women and Child Development Ministry, but we all converge our efforts. Gone are the times where ministers would squabble and not want to work together. Under the Prime Minister's leadership, we have seen a lot of convergence of efforts, a lot of cohesive activity which is taking place. So let's say if we are talking about Poshan, we have an identification drive for children who are malnourished. We do it in partnership with the Ministry of Health. We want to ensure that toilets and drinking water facilities available across all Anganwadis. It's the infrastructure development, the vacancies that have to be filled, the operational mechanisms lie with the state governments, but we work in tandem with them and with 18 ministries across Government of India. I think that is the hallmark of the Prime Minister's leadership.
But then you have those who cannot believe that we can vaccinate 2.5 crore people in our country. We have vaccinated 85 crore.
That's why those who cannot believe are not in a position to serve
question
today.
our certification.
Now, those who did not believe in the possibilities of India, those who did not believe in the talent that India has, those who did not believe in the aptitude of India, today mercifully are not in a position to serve India.
But internationally, if you were to see what's happening with the UK, I know it's the domain of the Ministry of External Affairs, but as an Indian citizen, does it not pain you when they question our vaccination certification?
I believe that under the Prime Minister's leadership and with the capacities that our Foreign Minister has, these are issues that will be resolved soon. Yes, there are many who were in a state of disbelief given the speed at which vaccination not only happened, but the vaccination distribution processes across the country. I think that if you look at the detail to which there has been administration partnership to ensure that not only manufacturing is looked at, not only is our testing lab facility scaled up, but also the last mile delivery. We see the numbers, but the task behind it has been mammoth.
One of the aspects is
Prime Minister makes it sound easy.
Yeah, yeah, it is mammoth, and I think nations across the world will have to understand our story as to what we have been able to achieve, because they can't do it themselves.
What I believe as an Indian, and I'm not speaking as a minister now, what I take pride in is that Indians are not out there to prove a point to somebody, to show somebody in poorer light. Indians in these circumstances, which have been quite a challenge for every family across our country, say that we know that we are capable of delivering these solutions, and we came together. I mean, I remember the PPE process.
Yeah.
There was not an Indian soul who turned their back to the effort. And we decided collectively, there was no segregation that ek mantri hai, ya there's an officer, there's an industry partner, or there's a worker who sits there in a pandemic, in a shutdown, walking to a manufacturing facility, stitching up the entire PPE thing together, knowing that their own health is going to be challenged due to the exposure. They did that when the pandemic was new to our country, and those are the sacrifices and partnerships that at least I, in my experience as an administrator, will never forget. We never stepped out to prove somebody in a poorer light. I think given the heritage and the civilizational culture that we have. The Prime Minister's program of Vaccine Maitri for 160 countries, it was a feather in the cap of India, because for us, we found solutions not only for our citizens but for the world at large.
True, and you're working on, as you're working at gender budgeting, gender justice, there are states which are passing legislation to recognize child marriages. So there is a certain level of
I think that the
imbalance
Honorable
there.
Supreme Court of India has looked at making sure that the Karnataka model that looks at child marriages and from a perspective of ab initio, that they are illegal to begin with, is a model I hope that everybody aspires to embrace. This is an active issue right now legally, hence suffice to say it would not be proper for me to go into a larger explanation, given that the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights is actively considering taking a particular position on this issue. But I think that every Indian today, including leadership, irrespective of political ideology, will recognize that there is no girl in this country who under tremendous pressure can get up and go into a system, declare her own marriage illegal without active support of community and administration. So like I said, I will restrain my comments on it, but I think that in an effort to build a stronger nation in the next 25 years, as we aspire to celebrate 100 years of our independence, we cannot afford the women's issues to be pulled back for political considerations.
My penultimate question is what's happening in Kerala, where you had a bishop coming out and raise this issue of women being influenced with drugs. And now it's Chief Minister coming out and saying there's no such thing like that.
I think the challenges of illegal drugs, its consumption and its impact on health, not only physical but also emotional and mental, are challenges that society needs to recognize. These are challenges that administration is trying to confront, given that law and order is a state subject. To brush it under the carpet and say that no such challenge exists is to do a great disservice to a community cause. In the pandemic, we started an effort in collaboration with NIMHANS, which is an institute of national importance under the aegis of the Ministry of Health, where we in fact requested them to collaborate with all childcare institutions across the country and also provide mental health services for duty holders, because this has been quite a challenge even for duty holders. I can today share with you that over 1 lakh duty holders in the past 1 year have been trained, which means that there is a consumption capacity today for these subjects amongst our citizenry, and it would behove us well if we can in fact dedicate ourselves to that service than deny the existence of such challenges for political considerations.
True. And my final question, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on the cusp of completing 20 years in governance. So from
2 decades of undefeated leadership.
Yes. And so how would you see the trajectory of Narendra Modi as a leader in the BJP to Chief Minister in Gujarat and now as Prime Minister of India and his vision?
If you look at him as an individual, it is a legend who continues to be in the making. Because the minute you would say that the Prime Minister should rest on his laurels, you do not then recognize the true potential of Narendra Modi. As a party worker, what he brings to the table every day in conversations is a recognition that Sangathan is above an individual. And as a Pradhan Sevak, what he brings to the table in terms of his work experience is that always put your nation first.
Smriti ji, always a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for doing this at such short notice. This is a pleasant surprise. Good to speak to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.